Today we'll talk about sensory perceptual assessment for communication profile, because it's impossible to talk only about communication assessment without sensory assessment. We talked about sensory in the very beginning. Now we will combine the two. First, of course, it is important to adjust the environment to the needs of children or adults, or whether it is at home, in family, or at school, university, to adjust the environment, to provide safe environment for them, because it is impossible not only to learn, to function somewhere when you are bombarded with hundreds of stimuli around you. So wherever the person is, think about it. To provide safe rooms, quiet rooms, it's easy. The second is to identify the optimum rate of incoming information the person can cope with. What is it? Some individuals, high functioning, they can cope with higher speed of talking and whatever. Others, it should be slower. So that is why you have to know this person, child, adult, to identify this rate of incoming information and give them chunks of verbal information they can cope with. The main approach for especially non-verbal individuals, or what we call low functional, is a minimal speech approach. That is, one word, two words, keywords, and that is it. Don't overload these people. I visited many residentials for adults, and many of them were nonverbal. And I remember some staff wanted to show me that their respect for these service users. And in one of the houses, it was funny, I quote, "John, will you be so kind as to go to the kitchen and bring something?" You lose John at the first word, because all this useless, overwhelming information, "Will you be so kind?" Yes, you want to show the politeness. It's okay. But when you communicate with someone who will not be able to process all this stuff, just, "John, go to the kitchen." That is it. Forget about politeness, at least at this initial stage of talking to people like this. And always use concrete words, no abstract words, please. Then, what is important to remember? It's important to connect words exactly with the situation at the time the child attends to it, or the adult. For example, we know that autistic children and adults avoid eye contact. Why? Because if they look into the eyes of the other person, they lose the ability to process information. They lose the ability. You know why I emphasize this? Because I've read someone with autism diagnosed recently who said, "I can make eye contact, but it doesn't feel natural." For children and adults, autistic children and adults, it's not about feeling natural, unnatural. It's inability to process the information. Their peripheral perception is very strong. They can understand a lot listening to peripherally. That is why, of course, do not insist on eye contact. But you have to be a detective. You have to find out what the child or adult look at, or at least, attends to. Because I will give you just one example. Higashida, a Japanese young man, nonverbal, it is from his book. He said, Once he looked at, when he was a child, he said, I look at the cloud, and then somebody said the word banana. And I learned that this cloud is called banana. And in a few minutes, somebody said the word table when I was looking at the other cloud. And then his conclusion was some clouds are called bananas, other clouds called tables. So this is very important. Don't assume, even when the child like looking at something, but and listening to you, just connect the word exactly with the situation. Identify the interaction style to be used with each individual, because there are at least two types: direct versus indirect communication. Again, those who cannot tolerate eye contact, direct perception, it's always should be indirect. If you want your son or daughter, whether child or adult, to get the information, it is better to talk to the wall. We talked about it when we discussed this avoidance of eye contact. Not insisting on the child's attention. They will understand you much, much better listening to peripherally. And again, another example, I talked about it already, but still, to show your love to the child, to show your pride for the child when he or she completed something successfully, you know, you want to express it. Don't be too noisy, hurrah, round of applause, and whatever. No, be indirect. Then the child will be happy. Then he will feel this love, your love, not when you started praising him in public very loudly. They will never repeat it again, the success, because they will be frightened with this. And I gave you my example. You know, when I'm overwhelmed, it was a good day, for example, with my son. He's not high functioning. There are good days and bad days. Now, more good days. And I want to show him how much I love him. But, it's this feeling when you connect, your heart to your son's heart. When I'm passing his room, his bedroom, I say, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And I know I can, if there'd been a camera, I can give you 100% that he was smiling at this. He was happy. So this indirect communication is very important for those who cannot tolerate direct one. But there are other individuals for whom we should use this direct communication approach, like Temple Grandin, for example. Because if she was in her own world, if she was withdrawn, she says her language therapist knew how to attract your attention. She could tolerate this direct perception, and it was good for her. So she was sort of insisting on this direct communication. So you have to know each individual you live or work with, especially your children, of course. And the next step of our assessment, to identify the preferred sensory channel used by the person to select the communication system. It's like it's in a program. This is the quote from that. But what I mean is, find out what language they speak. We talked about sensory-based languages, fascinating languages. Those who are, especially for nonverbal, minimally verbal, or even high-functioning autistic people, but, with all these sensory differences, not like it is unnatural. No, it's not about natural, unnatural. All this about monoprocessing and other sensory features, one sense at a time. We talked about it earlier. So they have their own sensory-based language. So whichever language their mother speaks, like mother tongue, it will be the second language, a foreign language with them. And it will be, yes, much slower, but still they will acquire it successfully. Like their main mother tongue, it's still sensory based. And that's why how to find out whether it is visual or auditory, kinesthetic, and so on. Yeah, observe your child. What will work? Pictures. Great, use pictures. Photographs. Yes, it's good. Before going somewhere new, show these photographs. We will be there. We will do this and that. Remember, even if they are visual, they are very literal, those autistic children and adults. And they will take this picture literally. And again, the same Higashida, this young Japanese man, he said sometimes they are more confusing, even if the person is visual, because any tiny change in the picture and it's like they don't know what will happen next, or it's too structured, for them. Be flexible. And as I said, they are very literal. It means all these abstract drawings instead of pictures. It's hard. But for example, this dinner time, right? There is this plate and something on the plate, something black on the plate and whatever. For Donna Williams, it was a face with a bruise. Somebody hit the face. So be careful about it. Or two figures with hands throwing a ball. These drawings. For Donna Williams, it was a spider. For high functioning, yeah, photographs are also useful if they are visual speakers, but we know many of them are not. And for them, the best choice is objects, because objects cover several languages, right? Visual, then tactile, then auditory. When you, for example, interact this way with object, they sound and smell and so on and so forth. So object is the best choice in some places, in schools and residentials. Instead of visual schedules for the day, they use like small shelves, objects for this. But please be very careful with objects as well. Yes, it can cover several languages, but do remember, the objects are very communicatively loaded, talking objects. And, we are surrounded with objects, right? And these objects have messages, written language of objects, if you like. And objects may have different meaning for you and for an autistic person. For example, you can show like this, it's time to go, right? Tapping your left wrist. And for the child, for example, this watch can give this, different meaning. He doesn't know how it is connected with the time to go out. Or, for example, I'll give you one example. A mother took the child to the beach one day, and the next, it was weekend, and the next day she took him to school. They couldn't get there because as soon as they started moving and turned, I don't remember well, but to go to school, the child threw a tantrum. Meltdown here doesn't work. He showed, no, 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 I don't want to go there. What's happened? His mother forgot to take this beach bag from the car. And this beach bag told the child that they were going to the beach, but he was taken to school instead. You see, this is the problem. Always remember that objects talk. And kinesthetic, yes, they learn through movement. So let them move or shape their movements while explaining what is going on. But even high functioning, let them move while you are talking, because that's how they remember the information. For example, first you go straight, then you turn left and whatever, and the person can start moving at the spot and turning left. They remember everything through their bodies. Even verbal autistic people like Donna Williams, she writes a lot about it. Again, I use this opportunity to read her books. She was ahead of her time. Now, another very, very useful thing to do, it is written communication. It is for verbal, non-verbal, it doesn't matter. Whatever a visual system or any other system you use, always provide the word, a written word for this object or for this action. They often remember the whole word, right? Wall, table, and whatever. Let it be written. First, it should be very small and big picture if you use visual language. And then it will be 50-50, a picture and bigger word. And then you will use only words. You know, I know it from personal experience from my school. They learn it very, very quickly. In a few months, when we started our classes, literacy classes, when the children were 6-7 years old at the time, many of them nonverbal, I was surprised because we used a timetable with words, never pictures, but with words. They learn them so quickly, and they love to change the order. Oh, it is Monday. First, it will be reading. Tuesday, first, it will be this and this. They learned it without us teaching them. So they are really very clever, especially nonverbal. You know why? Because already they have two languages. One, their native language, sensory-based, and any mother tongue as a foreign language, and they become bilingual. And now we know a lot of research studies that show the more languages the child knows, their intelligence improved. You know what I mean? The executive functions improved. Their understanding what is going on around them improved. Written language, I can't emphasize enough. It's so important, because letters and symbols are much easier for them to grasp than spoken word. You say something and the word disappears, right? But when they read, the word is there. You can sort of comprehend it. And whatever pace you go through the text, you can stop and check. And they are very, very useful. And many of them learn to read. And if the person needs help to shape their movements, do it. Help them, put, like I taught my son to write. I was holding his hand. I put the pencil into his hand. He didn't want even to hold it. So I put the pencil, then I hold his, and first I was moving his hand, drawing circles, squares, triangles, flowers, letters, numbers. Yes, it takes time, but now he can write. Yeah, his handwriting is terrible, but I don't mind. Mine is very, very bad as well. So at least he can write now. Again, to repeat, the worst you can do is do nothing. Help them. We cannot leave them. Or he or she is autistic. Let us respect it. Great. Autism is not like this is beautiful or this is bad. As I said, accept autism as normal. Like, yes, my family, we have an autistic child who is adult. Yes, it is normal. See, but I will communicate to him. I will teach him differently. I will help him differently from how I helped my daughter when she was younger, right? When she was a child. very differently. We all are different. This what surprises me, all this diversity stuff. There was this word different. And in 1990s and 2000, at last, because we all fought for this, to accept that they think differently, they perceive differently, they talk differently, it was enough. And this was disrespect for them, for us, and whatever. And we worked together, as I said, Temple Grandin, um, Donna Williams, Ross, and others. They help the parents to understand what is going on. They help me, as I said. It's just Donna Williams. I think she was a genius. Anyway, they helped us to understand. And that's why, they worked directly with families, directly helping the families. They say, teach them, do this. I was like that, but you have to help them. You have to prepare them. You have to give them this independence in many things you can.